I believe that leadership is both a skill and a talent. Like, you can't protect your kids from drugs and alcohol and bad influences if you have no idea what they're doing. So how do you protect them? How do you do it? You do it by being involved in those areas. You do it by knowing what your kids are involved in. Like, we need leaders. We need people that protect each other and that will protect people from the bad out there, because it's out there. And we need people that will provide, not just take, but provide to others. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Man Minutes. We're so happy to have you here. As always, love sharing info, love talking, love getting ideas out there, and just love helping, man. Like, this is a passion project for us, so just thank you so much. Today is a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. Can be a little broad, but I think it's something that's extremely important right now, and it's something I see a lot that comes up when I'm having conversations with, anywhere from like high school kids up to older kids, and we're primarily going to be speaking to guys here. But ladies, if you're listening, like, this is great insider knowledge for you to have also. So stay with us. Today we are going to talk about just like, what does it mean to be a man? Like, in today's day and age, even though I think that's irrelevant, I don't think our job as men has changed much since the beginning of time. But what does it mean to be a man? So just think about that for a sec. Like, what does that mean to you? If you had to describe that in like 3 or 4 key things, what does it mean to you? Does it mean you make all the money in your house? Does it mean that you take care of everybody? Does it mean that you are always the one people go to? Does it mean that you're big? Does it mean that you're strong? Does it mean that you know how to protect people? What does it mean to you? I think we've kind of lost our way a little bit in what our expectations are of ourselves. Maybe not 100% of ourselves, but of like what we expect as men in life. And for me, if you guys listened to a couple episodes ago talking about having wide shoulders and being able to carry heavy burdens, this stuff is going to kind of relate to that. You'll see some tie-ins. If you haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to it. Some super good, important stuff in that piece, and just some practical things that you can do. But what I want you to think about is, like, what do you think it is to be a man? And I will tell you right off the bat, like, when I was thinking about this episode and I was going over it, I was talking to a man about it, the 3 things that come to mind when I think about that is, I'm here to lead, provide, and protect. Like, that is what I am supposed to do as a man. And that breaks it down into 3 chunks, pretty simple. Lead, provide, protect. Lead, provide, protect. What I want you to do is, I want you to think about those things. Maybe there's something else you would add. Maybe there's something you would take away. But today we're going to talk about kind of those 3 things and how you develop them in order to get where you want to be. It's our job as men, it has always been our job as men, to be leaders. And real quick, I just want to preface this. When I'm talking about these things, ladies, I'm not saying it's not your job to lead. I'm not saying it's not your job to protect. I'm not saying it's your job to provide. I'm not saying any of those things. But I'm saying throughout history, men have done those 3 things constantly. Any major conflicts you can think of, like you're going to associate men as leaders in those conflicts. Protection, when you hear about big events, when you hear about things happening, you're going to hear about men. When you picture a police officer responding to your house, when you picture someone in the military, most of us think about men. Now, obviously, there's tons of females, tons of women in those areas too, and they do amazing jobs. I'm just going off of like what I'm thinking and how I look at things. When I think about providing, I'm not solely talking about financially providing here, right? There's lots of different ways as men that you can provide, and I just want you to think about that word, provide. But I want you to know, like I truly want you to know, like it is your duty as a man. Like God intended you to do these things. You need to do these things. You have to do these things to continue to make our society strong, to continue to make your family strong, to continue to make your community strong. Like we need leaders. We need people that protect each other and that will protect people from the bad out there, because it's out there. And we need people that will provide. Not just take, but provide to others. So when you hear those words, lead, protect, and provide, like what do you think of? I think it's every man's job to do those things. And maybe not in the same fashion. Maybe my idea of protection is different than your idea of protection. Maybe my idea of providing is your idea of providing. Maybe my idea of leading is different than your idea of leading. But I'm just going to tell you my thoughts and views and what I have seen and what I am constantly having conversations with other men about. Like this is what I see in my world. And a lot of people don't know how to do it, or they have questions about how to do it, or they're confused about how to do it. Like, how do you lead? First off, I will tell you, like, I believe that leadership is both a skill and a talent, right? There are some people that are very good leaders that people want to follow, and sometimes that comes natural to them. But I also know some people that are amazing leaders that doesn't come natural to them at all, and they have worked on it a ton because they want to be good, because they want to fill that role. And it's not for their ego. It's because they know we need it. So like I would just ask you guys like that are listening, like, are you leaders? Are you leaders in your life? Do you have men outside you that you lead? Are you leading at home with your family? Are you leading in your church? Are you getting other people to move towards the idea of what you think things should be? Like being a leader is having influence. Being a leader is walking the walk. Being a leader is to get people to do things to further a specific plan or a specific purpose or where you want to be in life. So I just asked, like, are you doing those things? Are you leading? If you want your kids to be healthy and be in good shape, are you leading? If you want your spouse to be calm and cool and collected and not lose their mind, are you leading? If you want God to be more involved in your life and more people to find him, are you leading? So like, how do we do that? How do you lead? You live it out. Right? So like, how do I lead with other men? Like there's guys that I mentor. I have a few of them. Like, how do I lead them? I lead them by living out the stuff I'm telling them. So if I'm going to tell them, hey man, like to get to where you want to be, you have to be consistent and you have to stay disciplined. I have to be consistent and I have to stay disciplined. I have to show them those things. Like we always talk about this nature nurture thing. You have to be out in front of them. You have to be showing them what to do, how to act. Like I promise you guys, I know you guys can all relate. We've had alleged leaders or supervisors or managers or bosses that do not do what they say that you should do. And who follows them? Like no one does. Like I'm not following a hypocrite. I'm not following someone that doesn't give me the example, that doesn't lead by example. I'm not doing that. Someplace I see it super involved just because that's the time, the stage of life I am is like kids sports right now. I see so many dads at practices that are getting on their kids. You got to run faster. You got to do this. You got to do that. And that dad is sitting there and he's 50, 60, 70 pounds overweight. He's not active. He's not taking charge of things. So like leadership is not words. I want you to hear that again. Leadership is not words. Leadership is action. It is action. It is what you do. You can tell your kid to go work out all you want. If you sit on your couch and you do not do anything and you are just a mess of a human, you are going to create a mess of a human. That is what they're seeing. So if you want to lead, you got to do that. You have got to be the example. You got to be out front. If I want to have better communication with my wife and my marriage, I have to choose to do that. If I fly off the handle when she comes to me with an issue about like, hey, you're working too much, you got to get out of your phone, you go to work and then you come home and you're on your couch and I lose my mind, like that's not going to be leading my relationship. That's not going to get us to where we want to go. If I want good communication, if I want us to press on to where we want to go, I have to be the example of those things. You've got to lead from the front. And you've got to take ownership when you don't. Like you guys, if you listen to one of our last episodes, me and Amanda did a podcast together, like taking ownership over stuff we don't do is one of the biggest things that makes us successful. And it's not easy, right? It's not easy when you get called out for like, hey, you're not being the example, you're not leading. It's not easy to be like, hey, I own that mistake. I'm sorry. I will do better in this area. I was actually having a conversation with my wife this morning, and she said like one of the things that she appreciates the most about me and our relationship, and when it really stands out, is when I just make decisions. Like I'm just confident. It's not like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do for dinner? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. I don't know. Like that's not leading your family. Like it's good to gather input, but also understand like leading is like, hey, tonight, guys, we've all had a rough week. Like, I just want some time together. We're going out to eat. And maybe you financially, you can't do that. So maybe tonight it's, hey, like, I'm going to cook dinner. We're all going to sit at the counter, at the table. We're all going to talk and we're all going to discuss things about our day while we're hanging out and doing this. Maybe leading is putting your phone away at the dinner table and being the example to everyone else and talking. But you got to lead by example. You got to take ownership when you're wrong, and you have to admit your mistakes to be a good leader, because people will call that stuff out real quick. Like if you hang out with any of the type of guys I do, like you will get that stuff called on you real fast if you're not living out what you're preaching. So you got to do that. Okay? You have to lead. You have to be confident in your leadership abilities, and you have to be confident and say, I don't know. Because if you are not relatable to the people that are around you, like you're not going to be able to connect with them. So be a leader. That's what you're supposed to do as a man. Like you're supposed to be able to be a leader. You're supposed to be able to tell people things. You're supposed to be able to have influence. You're supposed to show them how to do things as a man. And I'm telling you what, like we have some awesome young generations, and they get a lot of crap. I hear it all the time about like, oh man, these young kids, they don't know what they're doing and this and that. Like I will tell you right now, like my church, you go there and you see the younger generation, the young adults, like the high schoolers, like They are doing awesome things. They just need you to lead and believe in them. They need you to not just keep pushing how you were brought up on them. You need to be able to adapt and move along and bring the stuff you know, the knowledge with them. You've got to be able to do that to lead these people and do those things. So next up is the word provide. How do I provide for my family? How do I provide for others? How do I fill that word? Right? So when I think of provide and I think of what a man should do as providing, it's a lot of things. It's stability. It is providing the space to carry the weight so your kids and your wife don't have to. Like, and I know some people won't agree with that. I know some people will say, no, like it's so hard. Like my wife should feel these things too. Like, and if that's you, like I would just challenge you with that question, with that thought and that question. Do you really want that? Because I know in my brain, a lot of times I'm like, how are we going to do this? How is this going to work? I've been in those places. We've been into like, gosh, man, when we got married, I'm almost embarrassed to admit it. Like we were over $50,000 in debt, and like not like good debt, if there's such a thing, like not our house debt, like credit cards nonsense. And there was times, she's a teacher, I'm a cop, and I'm like, how are we going to figure this out? And we would have conversations every now and then, but a lot of that, like I would internalize and I would just be like, hey, like I'll eat this. I'm going to take it on. I'm going to work extra shifts. I'm going to do these different things because that's what I believe like a man's role is to provide. We are not the same men and women, whether you believe that or not. Like it's just not true. We have different characteristics. Like I cannot talk to my kids and be as kind and gentle as my wife. Like we have different personalities. There is a thing that a mother brings to the table that is a nurturing ability that I do not have. And that's just how we are. Right? But I have got to be able to provide in other ways. I've got to be able to provide stability for my family, for my kids, for my spouse. I have got to be able to provide financially. I may not be the only one providing financially, but I've got to be able to do those things. I've got to be able to be the one that they come to when things are scary, when things are bad. Like, hey, in the middle of the night, if my kid hears a noise, they shouldn't be waking up my wife. They should be waking up me because I provide that comfort to them. And we'll talk about protection, right? Because that's also a man's role. But I want you to think about, like, what do you provide? What do you provide for the people around you? And it's not just your family. Because I know this, like, this is a world of providers and takers. And I want to be a provider. I don't want to be the guy that gets into a conversation and I ask you a single question and then I'm just going right into my spiel about what I want. That's not providing. Like, I want to provide value. I want you to know that I'm invested in you. I want you to know that I am serious about like what we talk about. And again, like this, you're going to see this as we talk, like protection, providing, and leading all build together. They all mesh together. So like, what are ways that you can provide for people? Like, you can give them your time, right? One of the hardest things I have done and still do is coach high school kids at our church. It's an amazing experience, but it is so hard for me to give up my time. But I also know that that being the hardest thing for me is what God wants me to do with it. So how can I provide to others? Like, I can give up my time and I can share experiences. I can give up my time and provide a place for these young guys to come to and talk. I can give them an idea of like what it looks like to be selfless, right? I can provide for my kids. I can provide for them by when they coming to me, I have a conversation. I can provide support. I can help them figure out decisions. I can help them work things out in their brain. I don't have to give them answers, but I can help them work it out. Right? Like that's how I can provide also. In this world that we're in right now, with everything on the phone and social media and all this stuff, like a lot of times we talk about providing and we just think about dollars. Like how much money do you make? How much this? What kind of car do you have? What is this? Like I'm telling you, like that's awesome. Like I want to make a lot of money. I want to have a big business. I want to be successful in those things. But I would not trade that money and success for not having a relationship or being able to provide outside financially for my kids. I want to provide them support. I want to provide them love. I want to provide them caring, those sorts of things so that they can flourish, so that they can reach their potential. That's how I can provide them. Time is probably one of the biggest things you can provide to the people you care about. Like truly, truly. Like I know for me, when I was growing up, like my dad passed away when I was little, but like having other people that would give their time to hang out and just go do things. Like when my dad was around, like we didn't take like lavish vacations. That just wasn't the case. We didn't have the money. But like taking a road trip, like that provided me with memories. That provided me with things I will never, ever forget. So like, hey, if you're listening to this and maybe you're struggling financially, like don't base all your worth off of that. Like that's not what I'm talking about just with providing. There's so many different ways you can provide. So understand that. So we've talked about leadership. We've talked about providing. The next is protecting. And I know this is maybe like not always the right thing, or like politically correct thing is that the man should be the protector. But hey guys, like I'm here to tell you like it is. Like it just is. You have got to be able to protect your family. You've got to be able to protect yourself. And you've got to be able to protect innocent people that you don't even know. Like that's your duty as a dude. That's your duty as a man. Like you have to be able to do those things. We've gone from such a long place where everyone used to know how to protect because they had to now we're of this place where like it's okay to not know. It's okay to like not have any idea. It's okay for men to not act. Like I'm telling you, like that's not the case. Like no one wants to be in a situation where someone's in danger, specifically your loved ones, and not be able to do anything about it. Like probability of stuff happening, I don't know, it's increasing. But I say percentage-wise it's low, but it's super high consequence. So you can put time and invest into knowing how to do those things. How to protect them physically, how to protect them emotionally. Like there's a lot of crap out in the world right now that your kid needs protecting from, that your family needs protecting from, that your loved ones need protecting from. And it's not always physical danger. So how do you protect them? How do you do it? You do it by being involved in those areas. You do it by knowing what your kids are involved in. Like you can't protect your kids from drugs and alcohol and bad influences if you have no idea what they're doing. You can't protect them from the evil in the world if the outside things are all these little things that everyone's trying to push, if you don't talk to them about it, if you don't have conversations, if you're not figuring things out. But like as men, it's your job to do those things. As men, it's your job to protect. As men, it's your job to explain what is right and what is wrong. Like obviously sometimes there's gray area, but we've gotten away from a place where we believe in right and wrong and everything is just okay because of how people feel. And that's just Not the case. There's certain things that are truth. There's certain things that are right. There's certain things that are wrong. There are standards that we have to set and that we have to live by, and there's expectations. And we have to have those discussions. We have to know. Because if we don't, like, how are we going to know what to protect them from? How are we going to know? How are they going to know when they go out into the world, when they're old and grown, like, what is right? What is wrong? What's okay? What should I do if this situation happens? Like, your job as a man is to prepare them for that. Your job as a man is to tell them and explain to them, like, hey, this is how things should go. This is how you should work. These are the relationships. This is what our relationship should look like. Like, you can protect them in a lot of different ways, right? Like, this is one thing that we talk about a lot in our family is, like, we protect our kids from things that are outside by showing them what they should be like, by having a loving marriage, by going to church, by showing them examples, by leading the way and doing those things. Like, that's one way we can help protect them. We can tell, we instill in them, like, hey, you have value, you are smart. You know what is right and wrong. You don't get pushed over. Like, you don't pick fights, and you always lead with love, but you are not just going to get trampled on. Like, you just don't live that way. That's not how life is. And we can do that in a loving way, right? We can do that in a way that shows we care, but we also stand our ground in what we believe and what we know. So when you think about protection, I'm not telling you need to be a grandmaster freaking pistol shooter. That's not what I'm telling you. Like, I think that's awesome if you are, like, good for you. Like, that's amazing. But if you have no situational awareness, or if you don't think about scenarios and know how to avoid them, like, you're not protecting either. Right? I'm telling you, you can protect in so many different ways. You can provide in so many different ways. You can lead in so many different ways. And that's what we need as men. You have got to find what you are good at. Like, hey, maybe you're not a really good leader in front of people. Maybe you don't like talking about it. But maybe you're really good with, like, art, or maybe you're really good with writing. Like, you can lead in those areas. Like, find what makes you awesome, like, and really dive into your expertise. And do what you do great. Like, that's how you lead in your specific area, and you can help out in so many ways. But as a man, you've got to do those things. I truly, truly believe that. You've got to lead, you've got to provide, and you've got to protect. So think about those things, man. Maybe take a piece of paper and a pen and write some things down, like, hey, how do I lead? How can I be a better leader? How do I provide? How can I provide better? How do I protect? How can I protect better? Like, that self-reflection is huge and can help you in so many ways. But guys, you got to step up. We need you to step up and move in this way. Like, society needs it. Your family needs it. There's lots of holes to fill, and we got to do it. We got to step up and do those things. So I'm going to end with a verse like always. This is 1 Corinthians 16, 13 through 14. Be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be men of courage. Be strong. Do everything in love. Like, that last sentence, do everything in love, is so important to this verse. Like, we're not doing this because I want to make someone mad, or I want to belittle someone, or because I hate them or I dislike them. We're doing that out of love. We're courageous in what we believe because we love, because we want them to see a certain thing, because we want the world, we want to be an example in a certain way. We want to be strong a certain way. So be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be men of courage, be strong, do everything in love. Guys, thank you as always for tuning in. Any feedback, we love to hear it. If you like the show, please share it. We want you guys to share this with the people that need it. If you enjoyed the content, if you have questions, hit me up. hit me up on Instagram at MilmacAZ. Ask those questions, ideas, whatever. But please share the show. Give us your comments on it. And as always, we just appreciate you spending some time with us. Thank you.